This is your girl, Valerie Mason Chase again, and welcome to another episode of Marriage Beyond the Breach, where we have conversations on Sundays, 7 p.m. Most Sundays. There are some Sundays where we take a break. Listen, I got my sister. We are honored to have my baby sister with us this evening. None other than Miss Jacqueline Lawrence. Hey, sis.
Hey sis, hello everyone.
How you doing this evening, my sister?
Good, I'm better because I'm hanging out with my big sister.
Woo-hoo. Listen, in honor of our topic tonight, I would have played that song, but I already got a violation because I played Prince's song
Oh
a couple
really?
of months ago. Yeah, one of my guests, he wanted to surprise his wife with that particular song because it has a special meaning for them in their relationship. And I played probably 2/3 of the song. And then I didn't realize that it was a violation and YouTube had blocked so no one could get access to it. And I found out, and then I had to have it edited so that song wasn't on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I don't even want to play 10 seconds of a song anymore because I don't know how much you can play without getting a violation. So I don't want to take any chances. But anywho, those of you who are watching, thank you for showing up on this evening. If you will, just give a shout out, show my sister some love, put in the chat where you are watching from. And as always, I really like when our broadcasts can be interactive. So questions, comments, anything at all. Well, not anything. But your questions and comments are welcome. Please feel free to put it in the chat. So, hey, Miss Ali, thank you for joining us on this evening. So, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about The Color Purple. Okay, so if you haven't seen the movie, if you have, hey, Susan, if you haven't seen the movie, if you haven't read the book, we're going to be talking about The Color Purple. So if you don't want to have your viewing of it spoiled, I'm just putting that out there now because we're going to be talking something about it. Hey, Candy, Susan, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. So I wanted to talk, Jackie, have this conversation tonight because, as I'm sure you're aware, there has been some controversy surrounding this movie, and it's gotten some negative press. I'm not even talking about what the actors and actresses are saying. I'm talking about the movie itself. People are saying some negative things about it. And I just wanted to have a conversation with you about it because, you and I went to see the updated version a few weeks ago. And I know we both saw the original version. The book I read long time ago, back in the 80s, and I haven't picked it up again since then. I just wanted us to just have a chat about it. And again, those of you who are watching, feel free, put in the chat if you have any comments about the movie, particularly if you saw the original and you saw the updated version. What are your thoughts on that in terms of the differences of what it may look like? So, Jackie, we know that in The Color Purple, the book, and in the original, and the remake also, but more so in the book and the original, Celie, the main character, is narrating. And a lot of her conversations, it directed to God. Because it's about letters. She's reading a letter, and a lot of the letters are addressed to God. Dear God. If I remember correctly, in the original version, those were some of her first words that were spoken, Dear God, when she was walking along after she had given birth to the second child. But as a Black woman who's been abused by men for all of her life, how do you think that impacts her view of God?
I think that her inner core, her inner being, knew that God was something more. I think that she understood without even being able to articulate it that this being that she knew as God was her lifeline. And regardless of the physical men in her life, her father and Mr.,
Right.
who abused her, I believe that she knew that this God, what she knew to be God,
Yeah.
was her lifeline. And I say that because if she didn't feel that way, how could she write Dear God?
Right. Right. She had to
Right?
have some view of him that is far beyond her human experience,
Correct.
you know. And hey, Pastor Sean, and I find that particularly interesting because I know for most of my life, probably up until 40-ish, I had trouble. I couldn't even identify God as Father. You before then, you would have never heard me say Father God because of my experiences with my earthly father. So I think it's very interesting that, as you said, she had this view of God that had nothing to do with her human experience, but was way, way, way beyond that. And I think that's for a lot of us. In order for us to have a meaningful relationship with God, we got to sometimes get beyond or even ignore the human experience that we are having with people in our life who are supposed to love us and love on us. And when
Right.
they don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when there's a scripture that says, test the spirit by the spirit, I really believe that for her own sanity,
Yeah.
it's almost like God knew that, okay, I have to connect with her because all that she endured, it's a miracle she didn't wind up somewhere in a padded cell.
I know.
Right. So I really think, because God knows everything about us, I think that
Yeah.
he knew, okay, I really need to touch my child because I need her to know that regardless of what all of this looks like, I'm still here with her. God vindicated her. And she's like, okay,
Right.
yeah,
And I'm still here. That
yep.
song, the lyrics to that song, and I cry every time I hear it because I am envisioning my own life when I hear her sing that song, I'm still here.
Still here.
And Sister Ali said God vindicated her, and she knew one day she would get out of that bad marriage. Or not just a marriage, but even her experience with her who she thought was her biological father, who ended up not being her biological father.
Right.
And not only that, the other relationships around her were
Was all
dysfunctional,
bad.
not just her own.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they were all
Except for her and her
dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
Her and her sister, her
Her and
and
her
her
sister.
sister. That was the one person that she loved and knew loved her back.
Loved her back. Absolutely.
Loved her back. So, what do you think about Miss Suge Avery and what do you think her relationship? What do you think of her relationship with God or religion?
Okay, Suge knew who God was. Right? I think because of the way her father, the preacher, turned his back on her. I think that Suge Avery walked away from religion.
Right.
But I don't think she walked away from God. Yes, she lived her life the way that she lived her life, but she still knew that there was a God. And I believe
Yes.
that she just said, listen, my father, who stands up every Sunday and preaches and teaches and screams and hollers, but he can turn his back on me. That's not love.
Yes. That's not love.
That's not love.
Absolutely. That's
Nope.
not love. Yes.
Nope.
Listen, any parent that can turn their back on their child for any reason,
For any
to
reason.
me, that's not love.
That's love.
Okay. Because aside from the love we receive from God, the love between a parent and child is the most earthly, unconditional love that one can experience. Hey, baby, that's my cookie man. He said, "Hey, y'all," but he really saying "hey" to me. So, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I got all discombobulated when I see my cookie man's name up there. I just done lost my train of thought.
That is so beautiful after so many years, though. I love that. I love it.
I just done lost my train of thought. That man, after all these years, still has that effect on me. Ain't that something?
That's a beautiful thing, sis.
Yeah, but her father, turned his back on her because she was not living the life as a Christian that he felt that she should live.
Right.
But as you said, she might have left the church, but she didn't leave God. And show for show, God didn't leave her, because he promises in his word to never leave nor forsake. So if that's his word, and we believe it is, and if it's true, and we believe it is, then we have to say that whatever she was doing at whatever time in her life, God did not leave her. So, yeah. And I think her life is kind of like a lot of us, especially when we get saved, born again, become a believer, whatever phrase you may want to use, when it happens at a young age.
Yes.
Because for me, it was 13, but there was a whole lot that happened between 13 and when I really got to a point where I could have a solid, meaningful relationship with my Savior. Because before then, I didn't really have a full understanding. And, you go through your teenage years and your young adulthood, and there's a whole lot of stuff that occurs.
Right. But even when you get saved in your young adulthood, your early 20s, you get caught up in religion. And sometimes for me, it wasn't until I found myself in a position where I had to rely on God. And that's when, now I had been in the church for years, as you know, we grew up in church, right? And then fell away, and I became an adult and had children and went back to church. But it wasn't until I was in a situation where I really got to know God for myself. It wasn't about religion. And that's when I understood it's not about religion, it's about relationship.
Yes, absolutely. And for those of you who may just be joining us tonight, we're having a discussion about the color purple, and we are doing it thematically because I see that there's certain themes that run through the book and the movie, and the theme we're discussing right now is the theme of religion, or religion/God. So, Jackie, I'm wondering now, what does God look like to you?
So let me be honest. I read that question. I said, no, she did not. And on that, I actually had to make notes. To me, first of all, he's a loving father. He's my protector. He's my friend. He's my confidant. He knows what's best for me even when I don't know it. Right? But more importantly, he always wants what's best for me, even if that means he has to discipline me. It's all for my good, right? He loves me like nobody will ever love me.
Absolutely.
And he listens to me. Like, he listens to me when nobody else may not want to hear anything that I have to say.
Yes.
I know that my father is listening. I didn't have a relationship with my biological father.
Right.
I didn't. So when we talked about it earlier, I understand that. Like, well, how do you reconcile a God that you physically cannot see as your father versus what you see physically?
Right.
But God doesn't turn his back on me. Right? When I'm good, he loves me. When I'm bad, and I can be bad, he loves me.
Right.
He takes me as I am. And he's always there with opening arms, just saying, come on, daughter, I got you. Like, he's not going to let me fall. He's always going to catch me. He's always going to catch me. He comforts me. He teaches me. He guides me. So yeah, he just looks like everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, my
That's
brother.
right. The Cookie Man said, God looks like the
Yeah,
blessing he says he will provide for us. That's
absolutely.
good, Cookie Man.
That is absolutely.
Yeah. Have you ever considered in terms of physical attributes,
Mm-hmm.
ever envisioned if God had a body,
Yeah.
what he might look like?
So I can't describe
I
it
know this thing about the
100%.
color purple, but I just,
I
those
know.
kind of things I like to talk
Yeah.
about.
So I can't give you a specific description, but
Mm,
the vision that I have is me as a little girl,
mm-hmm,
and I crawl up in my daddy's lap,
mm,
and he wraps his arms around me. That's what God looks like to me. If
yeah.
I had to give
Comfort.
you a physical description, there's no face. It's just my father sitting there, and I crawl up in his lap, and he
Mm,
wraps me in his arm, and he comforts me. That's
yes.
my description of what God would look like.
Yes.
That's who he is. That's what I
Comfort.
see.
Comfort, peace.
Yep.
Comfort.
No matter what's going on in the world, I can
Mm,
crawl up in my dad's lap, and he just says, "Come on, baby," and that's the picture that I have of God. That's what
yes.
he looks like.
Mm, that's good, sis. So I want to shift from that theme and talk about love,
Okay.
because love does show up in the movie. And from the beginning, Silly Sister Nettie is the only person we talked about with whom she shares a loving relationship. So, from your perspective, where does love show up? Where else does love show up in the movie?
Harpo and Sophia.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Because
I
he
agree.
loves him some Sophia, and
Yes,
she loves her some Harpo. Harpo lost his
yes.
mind for a little bit listening to his crazy father, but he
And,
loved him.
and Sealy, because he listened to Sealy too.
Absolutely, he sure
Mm-hmm.
did. Who else? Harpo, Celie, and Suge.
Sealy and Shug. Yeah.
Um, and well, okay, you did give a spoiler alert. I think eventually the theme that ran through, especially when we get to the end, there was a genuine, I don't know if love is the right word, but respect and admiration among all of them,
Yes. Yes.
right? Among everybody.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that even Mr. Because, people say, when they say love, there's a difference in loving someone and being in love with someone, right?
Right.
So we're talking about love. And
Right.
I think that eventually, even Mr. came to love Celie, but it was more of an admiration, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
she survived him.
Yes, you did.
She survived him. And so I think that the love he felt for her was respect and admiration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But
And if I remember correctly, I think in the book, towards the end, when he has
uh-huh.
this epiphany, so to speak, I think he asked her about marrying again. I would have to go back and look in the book, but because, like I said,
Read
it
it.
was a long, 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 long time ago,
Yeah.
late 80s. Miss Ali said the family showed a lot of love when she came home for the holidays. Okay.
Oh, yes,
Mm-hmm.
Sophia.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sophia's sisters, they loved on each other, and they were some strong women.
they were. Because, girl, they went and packed her up so fast.
That's right. They packed her all the way up and said, that's it.
Quick and in a hurry. Yeah,
You ain't gonna
actually,
be,
I
you
have,
gonna be beating on my sister. It ain't
that's right.
happening.
Absolutely.
It
I
ain't
actually have The
happening.
Color Purple, the book, in my Amazon cart right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I want to read
Okay.
it again. Yeah.
So one of the things that Celie said about Suge is that she is good at loving people.
And that goes back to what we spoke about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Suge walked away from religion but she didn't walk away from God.
Yeah.
I think that Suge had the gift of seeing beyond what most people see, and I think she looked for the good in people, because she cared about Mister now. I think she looked for the good in people, and she was more concerned about their heart. And I think that was the gift that Suge had.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was good at loving people.
She was good at loving
because
people.
She wanted to be loved.
She definitely wanted to be loved.
Yep.
And I think the fact that she was open and she was kind of a free spirit, I think the freer you are, the easier it is to love.
I agree.
But when you are all bound up and wound up and uptight and all like that, it makes it hard not only for you to love, but for other people to love you.
To love you, absolutely.
And I think Suge's openness and her ability to be unapologetically who she was one of the things that drew Celie to her, because Celie was like this. And Suge is like this.
Yep. Suge was a ray of sunshine. Suge helped Celie to believe in Celie.
Yes.
And you're right, because Suge was so free, she was able to help Celie to open up.
Yeah. She definitely was. Yeah. So let's talk about marriage and relationships in the movie. So what do most of the marital relationships look like in the movie?
Girl, it was a mess. All of them.
Hot mess.
All of them.
All of them.
Until Harpo and Sophia got back together.
Yes.
That's when you saw something different.
When they came back. Yeah.
It was a mess, because all of the men were controlling.
And abusive.
All of the men were abusers.
Yep.
I don't think there was a good marriage. When I think about it, I don't think there was one, sis.
No. And I think but we're going to talk about a little bit of that later, but I think that's one of the issues that some people have with the movie. But from my perspective, they're showing things that really not only did happen, but do happen.
Right. I mean, especially back then, that's the way it was. Women be quiet. Yeah. I'm the man. Was that saying barefoot and pregnant?
Barefoot and pregnant.
Women weren't supposed to have a voice.
Or a life.
Right. It was everything. You were supposed to wait on your husband, hand and foot, and do this and do all of that. So it's not bashing men. That's not what it was. That's just the way it was.
That's just the way it was. And you know what? For you and I, having grown up the way we did, we know all too well that that's the reality in a lot of homes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sean said the Bible is the same way. Toxic marriages. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. There are a lot of toxic relationships in Scripture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if it's there, why are we surprised that it's going to show up in our lives and going to be depicted in storylines when there is a movie or there's a play or there is a book? The only time I have a problem with the way we, and by we I mean people of color, are depicted, when there is overall a lack of balance in the way that we are depicted. And I don't mean in just a movie, I mean across all forms of media. TV, radio, plays, movies, whatever. When there's not that balance, that's a problem. But we have to acknowledge that the experience of people of color runs the gamut just like everybody else, because it's a human experience.
Right, exactly. It's not just about because you're black or white. It is a human experience.
It is a human experience. But it's interesting because I actually had a friend say to me one time that, and this person said this to me, okay, that Black men don't molest little girls. And I said to this person, I said, you do know who you're talking to, right? I said, you do know what I lived through. You know my history, right? And I'm saying, how in the world could you make an idiotic, asinine comment like that? That
right.
black men don't molest their daughters, or Black men don't molest little girls as they're in the house. I said, listen, I think we need to end this conversation right now because I felt my neck getting hot.
I know you did.
And I didn't want all my Brooklyn to come out. Cause sis,
I know.
You know we could go there.
Yes, ma'am. We sure
okay.
can.
I ain't want all my Brooklyn to come out.
Fool you.
Yes. So I think sometimes that sort of mentality where we don't want to be honest about the things that occur within our community.
Absolutely.
Maybe out of shame. Just like when children at home, don't go around telling all our business. What happened in this house stays in this house. You can't tell this, you can't tell that, you can't tell the other thing. But sometimes that really, hey Angel, well thanks for watching. Miss D, thank you. That in and of itself is traumatic. And it compounds the trauma that the person in the home is already experiencing.
Right.
Because now what? You got to be quiet. You got to pretend this is not happening.
Yep.
So yeah, I think if something is happening,
tell it.
Tell it.
Absolutely.
Tell it.
Tell somebody.
Absolutely tell somebody.
Tell somebody.
Because these things do happen.
They do. And too often it's still happening.
It's still happening.
If people think that because we're in 2024 that it does not exist, they are fooling themselves.
They are really fooling themselves. They're fooling themselves. And Dr. Angel, who's on, hey, Dr. Danita and Dr. Danita. Dr. Anita is my supervisor. Dr. Angel is a colleague in counseling. And I know they have witnessed, because those children who become adults and they have not processed their trauma end up in front of one of us. Some of the children that are experiencing will end up in front of Dr. Angel. I say Dr. Angel because Dr. Angel sees children. I don't see children. I know Dr. Nita does also.
God bless him.
Yeah, God bless him. I don't have that particular oil, and I'm okay with that. But the children need to be able to tell somebody. And if you haven't given voice to it as a child, at some point in your life,
it's going to come
really
out.
Should be addressed, because all unprocessed trauma will negatively impact your life.
Absolutely.
Will absolutely negatively impact your life. And Dr. Danita has been on with me for a few episodes, and that's some of the things that she talks about, that we talked about on some of those episodes. And because you could see in Celie how, after having gone through the abuse at the hands of her father, stepfather, and then at the hands of her husband, it was almost as if she was invisible.
Right.
She was like a ghost.
Yep, absolutely.
She was like a ghost. And it wasn't until she got together with Suge where some of that was able to be lifted. Because I remember, I don't think they showed this particular scene in the updated version, but in the original version, there was a conversation between Suge and Celie, and Suge was talking about her sexual intimacy with Mr. And Celie was like, "What?"
Yeah.
You actually enjoyed it. She said,
Yes.
no, he just climb on me and do his
His
business.
business. Yeah.
And Suge said, you sound like he's going to the toilet on you. And Silly said, that's exactly what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what it feels like. She had been totally taken advantage of and misused and abused all of her life.
Right. So there was no enjoyment whatsoever.
None.
There was nothing. It was a chore. It was a chore.
It was a
that
chore.
she absolutely hated. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even with, remember the moment where they were talking and Suge had Celie stand in front of the mirror, because remember she would always cover her mouth, and when Suge grabbed, I don't know if it was in the second one, in the updated, but Suge took her hand down,
right,
and made her look at herself in the mirror and see her smile.
yes.
And it was like, see, you are beautiful.
Right.
See you, and like you said, she was invisible until then.
Until then, Dr. Nita said all that she had gone through was objectification. She was just an object passed around from this to that, and that was it. But when she had that experience with Suge in front of that mirror, it was validating.
Yes, absolutely.
It was very, very validating. And Suge was saying, listen, you are a person. Yes. Forget being a woman right now. You are a person, and you're beautiful.
Absolutely.
So we're already on the subject. I want to talk about another theme. Yes, Dr. Angel said she was affirmed and validated. Absolutely.
Yes.
I want to talk about the theme of sex and sexuality.
Okay.
That's in the movie. So let's talk about that relationship between Celie and Suge. It was kind of downplayed in the updated version.
Yes.
From my perspective. Hey, Lauren. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us, sis. I want to see Lauren's comment. Lauren said it's hard for so many to look at themselves when they don't feel good about themselves. Absolutely. I can identify with that. We're going to come back to Suge and Celie in a minute, because it took me a long time, because you need to be, no, let me rephrase that. Being able to look at yourself buck naked in a full-length mirror, hey, Nene, requires a level of what I believe self-confidence and security that I didn't possess for a long, long time. I couldn't look at myself in a full-length mirror buck naked. I mean, I can kind of sort of do it now, but I'm much better at doing it now than I was many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Because I'm not as insecure as I was many years ago. So yeah, and she was clothed when she had her stand there, but she couldn't even look at herself at all, because the people in her life who were supposed to love her and value her, they never saw her.
They never saw her.
They never saw her. So she was completely unable of seeing herself.
Right. She couldn't even see herself. Right. She couldn't even see herself smile.
Right. Right. Nene said she's trying to do it. Still have my days. I know. Sometimes I have my days too.
Yeah.
You know,
we all do. Absolutely.
We all do. But let me tell you something. Let's love on ourselves. I don't care how much cellulite we got. I don't care how much our thighs jiggle. Let's love on ourselves.
Absolutely, sis. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, yes. Dr. Angel said the only one who saw her was Nettie. That's right. Until her and Suge got together. Yeah. And Nettie left when they were young.
Yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, the movie goes from around 1909 or so to 1947.
Something like that.
So that was a long period of time. Hey, Miss D. Yeah, that's right, Miss D. They said she was black and ugly.
Yes.
She was insulted. Black, ugly, nappy-headed hair,
yeah,
all those horrible things that the father, her stepfather, and Mister said to
that's right.
her.
That's right.
Black and ugly, you know.
Yep.
Miss D used the word colorism, and
Mm-hmm.
that, unfortunately, that still exists.
Oh yeah. And this
That
wasn't,
still exists.
and it shows up again in the movie, but we'll get there.
Listen, we would like to believe that in the year 2024 that things like colorism don't exist, but they still do.
They still do. Absolutely.
Still
Absolutely.
do.
Yep.
Yeah. So we were kind of getting to the relationship as talking about the theme of sex and sexuality, the relationship between Celie and Suge.
Mm-hmm.
So my question I want to ask is this: do you think that Celie was actually a lesbian, or is she just somebody who happens to love Suge?
She's somebody who happens to love Suge. I don't think
Because
really, because Suge showed her that she was worthy of being loved. I don't think
yes,
it had anything
yes,
to do. I don't think it was sexual. I really do believe that Suge helped Celie, like you said, to realize she was a person
yes.
and that she was not invisible and that she could love herself. Suge
Mm-hmm.
showed her some of the best parts of herself. And when I say herself,
Yes,
I'm talking about Celie.
yes.
Right? It's unfortunately, even today in 2024, people see women who can have a real friendship and
Mm-hmm.
automatically, oh, they've got to be a lesbian. No, and if they are, that's their business.
Right,
So
right.
what, do you remember, Val, when we were down, and I'm going back, we were downtown Brooklyn. It was me, you, and mommy,
I
and
remember.
we were holding hands. And
Yeah,
people were looking at us like we were crazy, like
yeah,
something was wrong with us. I was walking with my sister and my mother. But people
yeah,
were looking at us like, oh my God, no.
yeah. Because you
Women
and I would
really
hold
can,
hands all the time. We
right,
would hold hands all the time
all
when we
the
walk.
time.
Yep.
Exactly. Women
Mm-hmm.
really can have friendships, genuine friendships, and
Yeah.
there's nothing sexual about it.
Nothing sexual about it.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't think their relationship was sexual at all. I
Right.
think that Suge was trying to help Celie. First, she showed her that she was a person. But then I
Right.
think Suge was also trying to show Celie how to tap into her womanhood.
Right. Right.
That's what I think. I don't think it was anything sexual at all. Now, Suge was sexy as all get out and go in that movie. Both of
Mm-hmm.
them, both
Mm-hmm.
versions, but she was
Yeah.
just showing Celie how to love herself and how to appreciate herself as a person, but also as a woman.
Also as a woman, exactly. Because I think it could have been a guy. It could have been Smokey the freaking Bear, you know,
Absolutely.
who helped her to see who she really was.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't think that either of them were lesbians, but I think had they connected so much on an emotional level.
Right.
Um, yeah. And they had a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They had a friendship.
Mm-hmm. They had a sister.
They had a sisterhood.
Yep.
Something that Mr. and others could never understand or comprehend.
Right.
And Miss Ollie said, right, to love herself as a woman.
Right.
Yeah. And, you were talking about being downtown. One time, me and Mama were walking and holding hands. And this woman passed by us and called us dykes and spit on the ground in front of us. Girl, me and Mama cracked up. I said, Ma, I guess she must think I like older women then, huh?
Lord have mercy. That's because people are ignorant.
Yeah. And that's right, Dr. Angel. That's why she wrote
That's
that
why I wrote
song,
that song, Sister.
Sister, for Celie, because there
Yeah.
was a connection, a sisterhood
Mm-hmm.
that was really, really strong
Mm-hmm.
between the two of them.
Yep.
And when you talk about two women having such a close relationship like that, I mean, when you think about in the Bible, David and Jonathan, what did David say about him?
Right.
They had such a close relationship, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the love that he experienced was sweeter than one he had ever experienced with any woman. Mm-hmm. Now, does that mean they were gay? Some people try to use that and say that they were.
I know.
Because I think overall, people are more uncomfortable with two men being that close than they are with two women being that close.
Right. I agree.
And I think that's unfortunate.
It is, absolutely, because
I think it's
men
unfortunate.
Men can be friends.
Very close friends.
Men can have a close relationship, and it's nothing to do with a sexual nature. Nothing.
Absolutely.
People forget that there are emotional connections. Emotional connections has nothing to do with your sexuality, with your sex, if you're a man or woman. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
It's an emotional connection.
Emotional connection. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why men are not always comfortable with showing their affection for their brother friends.
Yeah.
Because of how people on the outside may look at them. Right. Because, us women will hug, we'll kiss each other on the cheek, all of that, because people are more comfortable with women doing that. But when it's two guy friends, if they hug and they kiss each other on the cheek, someone may think something's going on with them. Because I know the Cookie Man, Gary, one of Frank's best friends. Sometimes, Gary is not always comfortable with Frank kissing him on the cheek, but Frank's very comfortable with it because he's secure in his manhood. And I think if you are, you don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nene said, very close, but in this day and age, if you have a close relation with males, you're considered gay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is a term that I know hate is a strong word, but when men have displays of emotion or affection, someone else might say, oh, that's gay. This is gay. That's gay. What the heck does that have to do with it? But you're right, Nene. There's some behaviors that, people say, oh, that's so gay. That bothers me. Sis.
I know. Me too. Me
really
too. Because what it's saying from me, and I this goes back a long way. Mm-hmm, if men show their emotions, they're weak. No, I totally disagree with that.
I think it's just the opposite.
Showing his emotions, that's a man.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with his sexuality. That's him as a person.
Right. Absolutely. Because it takes a stronger man to be comfortable enough in his skin to be able to engage in displays of emotion.
Absolutely.
A weak man's not going to be able to do that because a weak man is going to be so concerned about what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But
someone who's free, just like Suge. Suge was free.
Suge was very free. That was my girl.
Suge was free.
Yes. She was.
Wonderful. So another theme in the movie is racism. Ooh. So how does racism show up in the movie?
So when I first looked at that question, there was one particular scene, and we all know it that have watched either version of the movie, The Mayor's Wife. Because I think anybody that watched that movie want to slap her. But there's also another scene, and I think it was Dr. Danita maybe, who used the word colorism, which to me is another version of racism.
Absolutely.
Squeak and Sophia. Because Squeak was fair-skinned, smaller in size, pretty, and she made reference to Sophia's complexion and size at one point.
Right.
And so for me, those two are the only parts that I remember about racism. But that mayor's wife, girl, sis, I wanted to punch that lady.
I know.
I wanted to punch her. And then because Sophia was beat, and Sophia still had to be her maid.
Yeah.
They would not let
Ended
Sophia
up being her maid anyway.
Yep. They would not allow her to come out of jail until she became that woman's maid.
Yeah.
But now I'm going back to the original version of the movie. Remember the scene where Sophia was trying to teach her how to drive? Well, she was trying to drive, and she was taking Sophia to visit the family.
Right.
And something she couldn't do with the car. And it was nothing but a bunch of black people,
right,
men in particular,
right,
that helps her get situated and get straightened out.
Yeah, but she was saying that they were trying to attack her.
Yes, I know.
That's what she was saying. Yeah. And as it turned out, Sophia couldn't even stay and visit with the family.
And she had to get in the car with her and go.
Right.
Yeah. That was one of the biggest parts that I remember about racism in that movie was that. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's based on reality. People just don't want to be honest about the dark, ugly stuff that goes on in this world. It's a part of American history.
It is. Absolutely.
And they just want to act like it doesn't exist. No.
Yeah. Yeah. But Sophia was strong.
Very much so.
Sophia was strong.
Yep.
And she was a woman who would stand up for herself.
Yes.
And because of that, and again, this is the whole racism piece about people of color staying in their place.
Yes.
And not thinking too highly of themselves or getting that word uppity.
Yes.
Okay? Because all she said to the woman was, hell no. That's all she said. That's all she said, because the woman wouldn't take no for an answer. She already said, no, I don't want to be your maid. And the woman kept pursuing her. Okay? But how dare she stand up for herself and say, hell no, I don't want to be your freaking maid.
Right.
Now,
she didn't have that right.
She didn't have that right. And as far as they were concerned, she's stepping all out of place. And being uppity and sassy, because those are the phrases that they would use
yeah,
to any black person who would dare step up for themselves or speak up to a Caucasian individual. And had to beat her. They had to beat it out of her, because that's the only way that Sophia would have backed down. Because even when they were coming to surround her, she was ready to fight.
She was still swinging. Absolutely, sis.
She was ready to fight. But until they beat her in the head with that gun, that was the only way that they were able to subdue her. They had to beat her down. So Sister Lauren made a comment earlier. She said that she can recall that her son told her grandson that strong men cry and weak men pretend. Go ahead now. I love that. Listen.
That's all right.
I'm going to write that down, because I may post that on my Instagram, but I promise to give you credit.
To give you credit.
Strong men cry and weak men pretend. I like that. Yeah. You writing it down too, sis?
I sure am.
So, Lauren, you're going to show up on both our Instagrams, but we promised to give you credit. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dr. Nita said that's really good.
That is good.
So, yeah, there was a bit of racism in that movie. Yeah. beat her down, threw her behind in prison. And until that dinner scene,
she was closed off.
She was completely closed off.
Yeah.
She lost herself.
She did.
She lost herself.
She did.
But that dinner scene shows me that even when we are beat down and people think that we have been defeated, with the right love and support around us, we can find ourselves again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in that it took Miss Seeley.
Right.
Because Miss Seeley had been maybe not physically beat down the way that Sophia was, but emotionally and mentally, she had been beat down, like you said, since her whole life, physical too. It wasn't until Miss Seeley stood up for herself. Sophia thought that was the greatest thing. And she got strength from that.
That's right. Yep. Dr. Angel said, even the fact that she was a shapely woman, the father didn't like that she was thick. That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And Sister Ollie said, yeah, she woke up. That's right. She woke up because Mrs. Daddy said, oh, the dead has arisen.
Yes, that's right.
Listen.
That's right.
She woke all the way up. She said, oh, yeah, Sophia's back.
Yep, she said
gonna be some changes made around here. I love that scene. And to me, it can help someone who has been beat down to know that just because you have been beat down doesn't mean you have to stay down.
Absolutely.
You don't have to stay down. Nope. You can wake all the way back up, just like Miss Sophia did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that scene.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, Miss Ollie said she loved that scene too. Yeah. So this is what we're going to talk about now. Another theme. And this is what some critics are saying about the movie that they don't like. And that is the image of the Black men in the movie. So some say that Black men have been stereotyped in the movie. So what are your thoughts?
First, I have to ask a question. How have the men been stereotyped? How? Because again, during what you said, the time frame was like 1909
to 1947-ish, somewhere around there.
Right? That's the way most men behaved. Black, especially our men. Why? Because slavery had beaten the identity and the strength of our Black men. It had been beaten out of them. It had been stripped out of them. And all they knew how to do was to do what Massa said. And because the white men, think about it, the masters controlled their wives.
Right.
They controlled their little wives who did whatever he wanted to do. So they thought they could do the same thing to their women. So they're not being stereotyped. The problem is, again, people do not post-traumatic. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Dr. Danita. People don't want to be honest about the ugly truth of our history. That's our history. Stop trying to downplay it and act like it didn't exist. It exists. So no, Black men were not stereotyped. They just gave a glimpse into what it was really like for our Black men.
And our Black women who had the misfortune of hooking up with and being with the brothers back then.
Absolutely. Post-traumatic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep. Because you got to remember, if you look at it and look at the timeline, 1909, and you go back to 1865, that's not that much time.
Not at all.
That's not that much time. And even from 1909 to 1945, you're still looking at the Jim Crow era. You're still looking at it. And
absolutely.
I'm going back to what Sister Laura wrote about strong men cry and weak men pretend, because those men were weak.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it may not be, how do I want to phrase this? They were the result of the society and the community in which they lived. Okay. And them having to get emotionally beat down and sometimes physically beat down,
Mm-hmm.
and what they're going to do when they come home, because they got to say yes to boss and yes to keep their head down and not make
Mm-hmm.
eye contact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the only place where they could kind of look at somebody in the eye and stick their chest out was where?
Was at home with their
Was at
women.
home.
Absolutely.
Was at home. I want to get a couple of these comments here. Dr. Angel said they continued the cycle. That's right. Ali said it happens and we cannot act like slavery didn't happen. That's right.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Angel said the men were angry that they had been beat up, and so they beat up on the woman in their lives.
Yep.
That's
absolutely.
it. It's a cycle of abuse.
It's a cycle of abuse.
It's a
Absolutely.
cycle of
Yep.
abuse. When you look at it culturally, and you look at it from a family perspective, because Mr. was abused by his father, so
Right.
now Mr. is abusing his wife
Mm-hmm.
and children.
And children.
Because he wasn't so kind to Harpo either.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Not at all.
Not
And he
at
had a
all.
whole passel of kids already from, I ain't know where them children come from, but he had a whole bunch of them up in that house.
Well, right. Where did they go? Harper was the only one that you really saw anymore.
Harpo was the only one.
Yeah.
And Sister Ali said, why do they always want to control our men? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they control the men, then they got the whole family. And if they got most of the families, then they've got the community. And if they've got the community, then they've got all of the people of color, or a large majority of them.
Absolutely.
So that's why
right.
men are targeted.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, some men don't recognize that they are targeted, and they fall into that trap.
Yep.
They fall into that trap, and they don't realize that they're being targeted.
Absolutely.
Because if you realize you're targeted, you will conduct your life and structure your life in an entirely different way.
Right. Absolutely. And that makes me think about the movie Claudine.
Yeah.
Because she had a man in the house.
That's right.
That was trying to take care of the family.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't making enough money. And Claudine was on assistance.
Right.
At that time. And they had to hide stuff, and he couldn't be there. They had to hide his clothes when the worker was coming around. But he hung in there.
Mm-hmm.
But most of our men, most Black men during that time, they could have given up.
Exactly.
Because when, like you said, Val, when they tear the Black family down, when they remove the man, there's no more reproduction. Right? Once that man leaves that home, that's it. Unless she gets somebody else. But when
but then 9 times out of 10, that one ain't gonna stay around either.
Exactly, because there's some other kids from somebody else already, right?
So the whole structure.
Right. They can remove the man from the picture. They are now in the process of removing the entire family.
The whole family structure is gone.
Absolutely.
The entire family structure is gone.
Yep.
Because the man is meant to be, okay, everybody gonna like this, but this is my perspective, okay? The man is meant to be the head. He's meant to be the leader. He's meant to be the one to set the tone, okay, of the home. And if he's not there, now here we are as women having to step into a role that we were never created for.
Absolutely. And people who don't like it, I'm going to say it to you now, look it up because it's biblical.
Yeah. So you're right.
It's Bible. Yes.
It is, but unfortunately, and even now, especially now, the sisters just ain't getting it. The sisters ain't getting it.
I know, Val.
They ain't getting it because they want to tear the men down.
I know. And let me be totally transparent. I didn't tear my ex-husband down. I had to take the lead because he didn't. If I could have changed that, I would have loved for my ex-husband to take the lead. Would I have been, people hear the word submissive and it's like, oh no, listen, being submissive does not mean you're a doormat.
That's right.
Being submissive is I allow my husband to lead, but I'm going to be his helpmate.
Right.
Because that's my role. My role is to be there to help him so that we can do this thing together. But he is supposed to be my covering. So any young woman or whatever age, any woman that's listening to this or will watch it later, if you are thinking about getting married or you're already married, let me tell you something. If you've got a husband in your life that wants to be your covering, allow him to do so.
Right.
That's right, Miss D. He's to protect and provide. Allow him to do so. Right? We were not created to be the head. We were not. We were created to be their helpmate so that together the family unit grows. Your husband is supposed to cover you and your children. And y'all are supposed to help take care of each other. So whether y'all like it or not, again, it's Bible.
It's Bible. And Dr. Anita said there's an epidemic of passive men, and she thinks it's set up by Satan. I absolutely agree. Dr. Yep. And she went on to say to keep the family from being the model that God ordained. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And sisters, some of y'all don't like it, but I'm sorry. This is Marriage Beyond the Breach. And I'm Valerie Mason Chase, and I run Marriage Beyond the Breach. So we're gonna say our perspective. You may not agree, you don't have to agree. And I think that some women have had bad relationships, or they got involved with someone that they should not have gotten involved with.
Absolutely.
And they say, "Oh, I'm not gonna have no man do this and tell me that." Well, obviously he ain't the one.
Right.
Obviously he's not the one, because there is such a responsibility, and the primary responsibility of the head is to love on those who depend on him.
Absolutely.
The wife and the children.
Absolutely.
That's the number one responsibility. Love on them. And if he is not doing that, then he is not the one.
Right. Because he's out of his role.
He's out of pocket.
Absolutely.
But we get hooked up with these jokers, and then we want to say, well, I'm not going to listen to him, and I'm not going to submit, and he can't tell me nothing because I'm grown, and yada, yada, yada. Well, then you're not with the right one.
Yep. And I used to say the same thing. He can't tell me what to do. Had I have known then what I know now, it would have been different. And that's a long mic.
Yeah, I get it.
You don't know. You just don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But when you recognize, try to find out.
Absolutely.
Try to find out, because there's no harm in not knowing, because nobody knows everything. Right. So there's no harm in not knowing, but there is harm in not knowing and realize you don't know and not trying to find out.
Absolutely.
That, I think, is a huge problem, because there's a lot of dysfunction between men and women today, as Black men, Black women, and because I'm a Black woman, I'm going to stick to that area. Okay? All you have to do is just scroll through YouTube or TikTok or something, and you'll see men putting women down, women putting men down, and he ain't no good, and Black women do this and this and this and this and this. And I'm wondering, do these people even have relationships?
Right.
And so who are they in a relationship with?
Right.
When a brother's going to sit there and just spew nothing but negativity about Black women, who's he with?
Absolutely.
Is he with a sister?
Probably not.
And if he is, who is she?
Right.
To be able to be in a relationship with someone who spews all of that mess.
All that venom.
Yeah, Dr. Danita said in our day, we didn't have premarital counseling. You're so right. But Dr. Danita, even when couples, let me rephrase this. Let me restart over. I think sometimes couples have the wrong idea about premarital counseling because very often they've already got the wedding plan, they got their date, they got making all their plans, and then they go and get the counseling. And if the counselor says to them, and the counselor advises against marriage, they done already sent out the invitations, or they done already sent out the save a date. She done already got her dress. So
venue, yeah,
right. So they probably will go on and continue on and get married. But real premarital counseling, actually, one of my professors said there should be pre-engagement counseling, even before you get engaged. Start going to counseling together. But absolutely, yeah, Dr. Nita said she loved when couples come before the ring. That's right.
That's good.
Get engaged. Let's see if we are a good fit. Let's see if we're on the same page. And if there are issues, let's work through them before we say yes to a ring. But some women are chasing a ring.
Not a relationship.
Not a relationship. Right.
Yep.
And now it becomes about the wedding and not about the marriage.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Dr. Angel said she enjoyed her premarital counseling. Dr. Angel, sister girl here, I ain't have none.
Me neither.
I didn't have any. Had I had some, Frank and I had premarital counseling, and if it was a a wise counselor, more than likely would have asked us to delay getting married. Not to say that we should never have, but to delay it. Because, all those issues that I had with the sexual trauma and all that, I hadn't processed none of that. None of it. And I know we are still talking about The Color Purple.
We are. we are.
But that movie, all the themes that are running through that movie, it's real life. Absolutely. And it's stuff that we should be talking about. Dr. Lita said hers would have been delayed too. Yeah, Dr. Danita, absolutely. I know ours would have been, because I should have worked through all of that trauma before Frank and I got married, because it impacted us, it impacted my parenting, it impacted a whole bunch of stuff.
Girl, if I'd have had premarital counseling, no.
They probably would advise y'all to wait too.
No, it'd have been no, Valerie.
Well, maybe not. Because first of all, I can't imagine him even agreeing to go to counseling, number one.
Well, that is true. And for the record, I am not bashing my ex-husband, because we get along great.
Yeah, y'all good friends now.
We have a great friendship now. So before anybody starts, I am not bashing him. He is the father of my 3 children. We share 5 grandchildren together, and we get along just fine. So let me make that clear.
Yeah. But he still wouldn't have gone.
That is so true.
That would have been the shocker.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been the shocker. And listen, I love you, ex-brother-in-law, but if he went, they'd have had to gag his behind for the counselor to be able to get a word in edgewise.
Oh, Lord. That is so true.
They'd have had to gag him. Oh, God bless him. I love him. I do love my ex-brother-in-law. Okay. But I think it's a good thing that we can have these laughs now because we wouldn't have been able to laugh about this years ago.
No enough wouldn't.
But we can laugh about it now.
Yep, absolutely.
So, Jackie, what do you see as the overall message, the overarching message of The Color Purple?
There is beauty in everything. When Suge and Miss Celie were walking through the fields, and she said, I can't remember verbatim, but she was talking about The Color Purple.
Yeah.
She said, how can you, I'm going to paraphrase here, pretty much what she was saying is, how can you walk by the color purple and not stop and notice it? And I think that is the overall theme of the movie. There is beauty in everything, but we have got to take the time to stop.
Yes.
To see it, to acknowledge it, to thank God for it.
Yes. And thank God for beauty in everything.
Everything. There's
and
everything.
Love will win out in the end. Good night, Dr. Danita. Thank you for being with me tonight. I love you. Yes. Love will win out.
Love will win out.
Love will win out. Because
Absolutely.
that's the thing that kind of soothed the hurt and the brokenness.
Yeah.
In the individuals that were broken.
Correct. All of them. Suge,
all of them.
Sophia, Miss Celie,
even Mr.
Nettie, and Mr. Yeah, and
Harpo. Yep. Love will win out. And just because you're broken or beat down, you don't got to stay that way.
You don't have to stay that way. No.
You don't got to stay that way.
You don't.
Whew, well, my sister, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Those of you who are watching either now or later, I appreciate you. Oh, that was Dr. Angel. Bye, Dr. Angel. So we'll be back again next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about couple affirmations, creating couple affirmations. So we're going to have a conversation about that. We'll have some guests on next week. So those of you who are watching now or later, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for supporting Marriage Beyond the Breach. If you have not already done so, I would appreciate if you would subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, share. Marriage Beyond the Breach is on YouTube. We're on Facebook, and we are on Instagram. I was trying to think to Instagram tonight. I don't know if I did it right or not. I might not have done it right. Oh, it says you were live. Okay. So I guess it must have gone ahead on Instagram. I don't know. I didn't even check over there. I guess I should have looked, right? It's kind of late now that we are ending. But thank you. I appreciate you. And hopefully you'll come back again on next week. Until then, have a blessed day. Have a blessed week. All of that. And remember, my number one saying is that no marriage, no relationship is beyond redemption. And we even saw that in The Color Purple.
All right now.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.